This video is kindly sponsored by Project Red. Check the link in the description to find out more. This video is made possible by 3D Musketeers, offering full-service product development, prototyping, and production, helping you make awesome from art to part. Links in the description.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Meet a Maker. Hi Faye, how you doing?
Hi Billy, I'm doing pretty good. I'm very, very happy to be here. I've missed you. It's been
I've
too
missed
long.
you too,
Been
I'm
like
sorry.
2 whole weeks.
I
2 whole
know,
weeks.
I know. I have been out of action. But today I'm super excited because we are both meeting Joe, the printing professor. Hello, Joe.
Hey Billy, hey Faye.
How you doing?
Oh my gosh, this has also been in the making for a while. This has been in the books, in the calendar for weeks as well, which means that I've just been kind of slowly building up anticipation for it. So like the bar is very high now.
No, because in the meanwhile, you guys got to interview Andrew. You guys got to interview Jorvon, Jay.
Yes, Jorvon, amazing.
Yeah, and
he's on the cover of Make. I'm so sorry, that was my fault because
no, it's okay. It's West Coast. It's very hard.
Time poor and yeah, it was hard. He did have very specific times too, and I was like, oh, Faye's not gonna make those.
No, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Jay is taking off, and I feel like I'm kind of a letdown. If we'd have done this when we went to, like before this whole thing happened, I could have. But now it's just like, hey guys, thanks for putting up with me for a little while.
You're both awesome. You're both awesome. But I'm very happy for Jay. Cover of Make magazine.
Deserves
so
it 100%.
Amazing. Yeah, his stuff is just chef's kiss. Amazing.
And the photo that was used just absolutely just blew me out of the water. Honestly, I was going to say to you, Joe, before we started, and I actually didn't get the chance, so now I can say it for real. I love the fact that you are well dressed and well presented, because a lot of men don't feel like they need to, like they don't have to, so they're very casual, and there's nothing wrong with casual. Just for the record, there's nothing wrong with casual. But I personally have a strong appreciation. I have a strong appreciation for men that dress up a little bit. And Jorvon always looks so impeccable in his photos and stuff like that, especially wearing his makes, wearing his creations, but also with like a vest and, you know, a button-down shirt. And he always looks really nice and presentable. So, but you have come also very, very kind of just polished up when you got your Mona Lisa tie. And I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate it.
I also appreciate it.
And I appreciate it.
I mean, I actually didn't. Hold on for a second. We can, you know, take it up a notch if we wanted to. And just,
ooh,
you know.
Is there a best?
Wait. Does it have the elbows? Does it have the professor elbows?
Oh.
No.
We will have to sew you a patch.
That's okay.
This is wonderful. We can't see your elbows anyway, so we can just pretend.
Professor elbows, though, I'm gonna get it.
Well, you know what? When when shops actually open up here again, because hey, we haven't actually had shops in like 2 months now. When shops actually open up again, maybe I can find you one and I can send it to you, because that is the tweed jacket with the elbow patches is such a thing here. Like it is a very English thing.
So I'm like super conflicted on this, because one, I don't want you to have to deal with international shipping, but two, I know you can probably find it. Yeah, okay. 100%. I'm there for you.
Yeah, no, international shipping is super fun right now. But those jackets are very common here. So
let me just, like, for a bit of weird context, you know, I know that Australia's on lockdown. I know that London's on lockdown. I know that New York and Los Angeles are on lockdown. Yeah. I've never been on lockdown this whole time. In fact, my job got busier when COVID hit, because just by weird coincidence, the makerspace that I work at the library during the day flooded, broke. They had to, they had to close it down. And so they're like, well, Joe, we're going to move you up to the circ desk. And working the circ desk in a library is a lot of friggin' work. Wow. So I actually have had to work more when everybody else is sitting there going, oh, I'm so bored at home and I don't have anything.
Yeah,
I wish I was you.
literally have not been bored for even a second. but
No,
I get
no.
what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
No,
I think makers have generally
I'm
done
also
quite well with the boredom
yeah,
situation.
no, I've not had an issue at all. If anything, my issue is I need to stop having ideas because I keep having ideas before I've executed previous ones, and my list just continues to get longer. So
Well,
it's a real
and I
problem.
think that that's really a good trait for a maker to have, and I think that a lot of people
There are
don't
worse,
have it.
worse problems.
Well,
There
a
are,
lot
yeah.
a lot of people, they enter this situation like COVID and stuff like that, and they're so used to not having time to do stuff that, and they've told themselves for so long they don't have time to do stuff, that now when they do have time to do stuff, they don't have time to do stuff because they told themselves that they didn't have time to. And it takes time to get out of that mindset. And the problem is, once people start getting out of that mindset, they're going to lift the restrictions. Everybody's going to go back to work, and they're going to be like, "Ah,
I hate
have
this. What am I doing with my
Big
life?
regret.
I could
Yeah.
be baking. Yeah.
And then their glasses will break, and
absolutely.
they'll sit on the stairs of the New York Library and go, "But I had time."
Capitalism will fall over.
What is that from? What is
Twilight
that
Zone.
from? Thank you. I was like,
There-
as soon as you said it, I knew, like, I could picture it in my head, but I was drawing a blank. Thank you.
Billy, do you know that
I've
Twilight
got a
Zone
great
episode?
visual memory, but bad at names. So
There was a Twilight Zone episode where there was a dude who was obsessed with books to the point that it was destroying his relationships,
Oh.
and he like, I don't know, was in a got stuck in a bunker just as the bomb went off, and all civilization was destroyed, and he survived alone. And he comes out, and everybody's gone, and the New York Library is decimated, but he's got all the books in the world, and he's gathering all the books so that he can just sit and finally just read. And then he stumbles and breaks his glasses because the Twilight Zone loved an ironic twist.
No.
the
And
wild
he's-
thing is that has been respun and retold so many times since
Yes.
then too. Like that, I think maybe more than any other has
I
endured.
think The Simpsons did it. A lot of people. But yeah, the line is, "But there was finally time," as he's sitting there with his broken
Oh,
glasses.
There was
poor
finally
guy.
time. Oh gosh, that's
Twilight Zone. I
a
don't think I've ever
homework.
seen, but it's like the proto Black Mirror, right? Like Black Mirror is kind of like
Yes.
it's more technological offspring, right? Like
Yes,
kind of.
yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, Twilight
Yeah.
Zone had a revival in the 80s. There was also The Outer Limits. Yeah, and Black Mirror is definitely the latest incarnation of that idea of the dark and twisted what if stories.
Mm.
But Twilight Zones, I think, have held up extremely well.
Hmm.
For the ones
Okay,
that
I'll
I'm
have to give
familiar
them a
with,
go.
yeah.
I need a new series. New.
Yeah, well,
new.
and I guess perhaps if you like Black Mirror, then I'd say that's an excellent litmus test. Like if you don't like Black Mirror, I'd say you won't like Twilight Zone. But if you
Yeah.
like Black Mirror, and if that sort of thing gets your gears going, then I'd say Twilight Zone is probably
Well,
Hmm.
and the nice thing about the Twilight Zone, so much TV back then was so slow. Its pacing was just really hard to watch. If you go back and watch like the original The Day the Earth Stood Still,
Yeah.
I mean, that robot is iconic, but man, that show is hard to watch. It's just really, really slow.
I watched King Kong
But-
once. I had like the original, and I was like, "What? What?" Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you. I
yeah.
get it.
yeah.
But-
And in fact, yeah, I actually, big confession, I can't watch old films
Yeah.
most of the time because
the
there's
old
that sort
Twilight
of
Zones,
reason.
the old Twilight Zones had like a half an hour plus ad break, so maybe 15 minutes to tell a big story. And so while their pacing is still like old TV shows, fairly slow, you feel like it's bombarding you and it doesn't
Mm.
drag.
ADHD friendly. I like it. That's what I need.
Yeah, it's not like Sesame Street fast, but it definitely keeps your interest the whole time.
Sesame Street
Got
Fast.
it. Got it. Yeah. No, I'll
Sesame
definitely
Street
give it a
invented
go.
the 2-minute cuts.
Oh.
Oh gosh. Admittedly, there's a lot of TV now that has like just a completely different, much shorter format. I still remember the first time I watched Adventure Time and realized that the episodes were effectively 5 minutes.
Mhm.
That's it, 5 minutes,
Mhm.
and it was like, oh. No, wait, hold on. I apologize. 10 minutes. They were 10 minutes. I was thinking that there was two of them and they were 10 minutes. No, they were 10 minutes each and there was two episodes per episode. And yeah, 10 minutes. But now they've got stuff that is like 5 minutes and even shorter. But it works. It
Hmm.
somehow works. These shows are not bad. The pacing is good, and
No,
somehow they
the
manage to
pacing
tell a
is
story.
they do. They got a good beginning, a middle, and an end, and they just get through it real fast. Actually, it's kind of funny because I have been working on a project kind of on the side in my spare time, which is why it hasn't happened very quickly. Did you ever pay attention to Chibimals? Did you guys know about these?
The little animals. You had lots of
The
different
little
ones, right?
cute
Yeah,
animals
yeah.
that I
We should
made,
start
yeah.
talking about you. This is a good segue.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to say at one point, I was like, hey, actually.
We still haven't heard who you are, what you do, what you're known for. Yeah.
Nobody's tuning in for that. Everybody's tuning in to hear you two, so I'll just
That is
bounce off
not
of you.
true.
Lies. It's our powers combined.
Yes, we're
that
like
is-
Captain Planet. Yeah.
I'm going to be stuck with the heart ring, aren't I? Dadgummit. No.
I think Faye's
the
hot.
problem is, Faye, you've already got the fire.
It's true. Fire Tiger up here. We've been talking about our zodiacs.
It's not my fault. Not my fault. But no, please give
Please,
us,
yeah.
give our audience, give everyone out there a proper introduction now that we've confused them thoroughly
Yeah,
with,
no, seriously. What's the time count on,
Oh.
Billy, guys? You need to put a little thing on
11
there.
minutes.
Jump to 11 minutes for the use.
11 minutes to hear the interview start.
It's a
Yeah.
record. It's a record. Tell us who you
Um,
are. Tell us about yourself.
My name's Joe. I'm the 3D printing professor on YouTube. I started making videos on YouTube a while ago, started getting serious about it much more recently. But I've been doing 3D printing now for 9 years and started making YouTube videos as a way to encourage other people to, get into it as well, because I truly believe that 3D printers are a technology that's going to change the world for the better. And in addition to that,
Here.
yep, and to fund my addiction, recently I've started working on Kickstarters occasionally, and a little while ago I did a Kickstarter called Low Poly Dinos that produced Low Poly Dinos. I'm not really clever with names.
Hesitation. I was like, what's gonna say?
Ice cream? Is it ice cream?
Oh, this is
Should have been
Okay.
ice cream.
good.
Darn it.
yes. Low poly dinos that are low poly dinos. Yes, good.
With the Low
That's what
Poly
it says
Dino
on the
Kickstarters.
Yes.
And that one was funny because I said, as long as the money's rolling in, I'll keep making dinos. Every X amount that's raised, I'll make another dino. And man, I did not count on the generosity of people. So I ended up making 80 different dinosaurs. It was an intense month.
How did you even pick all those dinosaurs? Did you make them pick? Because, like,
Well,
that's a lot of
so-
dinosaurs.
Yeah. I asked people, what's your favorite dinosaur? And the whole time it was very interactive. And I was saying, I put up 5 dinosaurs and let people pick, and whichever one was the winner got added, and whichever one was the loser got taken out, and I added 2 more back in, and we re-voted over and over and over and over again. Which was, I learned more about dinosaurs during that month than I ever thought I'd do. I discovered a dinosaur called the Dracorex hogwartsia.
Amazing. So
the
that was discovered in the
Hogwarts-
last 20 years.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fairly recent. And here's the deal. A couple of paleontologists went out in the desert, found themselves 7 bones, said, if we put these together in a certain way, it looks like a dragon. It's the Hogwarts dragon. We'll make it Latin. Freaking, I want to be a paleontologist, man. Just find rocks in the desert and go, I just
Yes.
discovered,
So
They got
my
the
favorite
sweet life.
dinosaur. Oh, sorry. You
No, I
Yeah,
want to
we-
hear this.
My favorite dinosaur is the Australopithecus. It is a real
Yes.
dinosaur, and that is its name. I think they pronounce it differently, but I'm sure they did it on purpose, because when you read it, it is totally Australopithecus. And the best part is, you know how Jurassic Park had velociraptors, and they're nothing like real velociraptors, because real velociraptors
Just
are like
real
turkey
velociraptors are like
size, and they
chickens.
don't even, So this one is like a real velociraptor, and actually
Right.
terrifying, has even longer claws. It's amazing. It is everything you could want in a dinosaur, and it's called Australopithecus. And can you imagine if they did Jurassic Park with the Australopithecus, and they're like, oh no, the Australopithecus is coming. It was just Just
See,
brilliant.
And that's why they took creative licenses, because they couldn't say that with a straight face. They couldn't say it with a straight face.
Good. They also hadn't discovered this until very recently, unfortunately. But I follow a guy on Twitter who discovered it because it's very local to me. Like it's like I could probably drive to.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I saw your tweet about that and was super excited because my radar perks up every time Australia pops up, because I think I've discussed this with you. My grandmother was Australian.
That's right.
And so in my house, we had all kinds of Australian art and Australian stories and Australian music, all passed down from my grandmother. So of the cultures that I identify most with, Australian, outside of America, Australian is the one that I kind of identify the most with. So yeah, at one point she was doing some video and she laughed and I don't remember what it was. What were you saying? Like the thing that you were wearing made you look like something. That I said, yeah, it makes you look like that and laugh like a kookaburra.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I was like,
that's right. It makes you look like a cockatoo and laugh like a kookaburra. And you kind of freaked. You were like, how do you know kookaburras? I'm like, yeah, quarter Australian, you know?
Wait. Americans don't know kookaburras usually? I mean, I
don't know. Billy seemed surprised.
Well, the other day I talked about going to a mountains. This is like 2 weeks ago, and 2 different Americans were surprised to learn that Australia had mountains. And I was like, so sometimes what people know about Australia is like surprising to me.
And I suppose
we're as big as the USA.
Americans, perhaps.
They're lovely people who are well educated, but just never occurred to them that we would have mountains. And I'm like,
I mean, do they realize that Australia, if you took it off of the Mercator projection that it's always projected on and moved it over the United States,
we're about the same size. Yeah,
about the same size.
My favorite is Pluto.
Florida would be sticking out.
Yeah, my favorite is putting Australia and Pluto superimposed on top of each other, because like Australia sticks out the side of Pluto, and now I'm like, oh, that's why they don't want to call it a planet. Okay. It took me seeing that to make me be like, no, Pluto's
oh my god.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
fair.
not really. Yeah, sure. Okay.
But of course, in Australia, here's another part that everybody's gonna have to skip because we're just palavering.
It's what we do here.
But in Australia, you guys have got like what, 7 states or provinces, or what do you guys call them?
Yes.
And of course in America,
I think it's 7. Yeah.
7, yeah. In America, we've got 50, and so everybody thinks, well, obviously Australia's not as big because they've only got 7 states. Okay, first of all, their states are friggin' huge.
All our states are Texas.
But I also love how you can tell where the British naming stopped and the Australian naming started. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, especially for, like, even like smaller than places. We'll have like I don't know. Oh, I'm trying to think of a good British word, but like Hawthorne, very British.
Yeah.
And then we'll have right next to it Bulimba, which is an Aboriginal name for that location, and they're just like side by side. Wollongabba.
Also,
and
Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria.
Where did that came from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
like,
here it is. In the British come along and they settle Queensland and New South Wales and Victoria, and then they leave and the Australians take over and they're like, Northern Territory, Southern Territory, Western Territory, let's go have a beer.
Yep. Done now, let's go.
Yeah. And the Australian Capital Territory, which is my favorite state because it's a city that we invented because Sydney and Melbourne couldn't decide who was going to be the state capital of Australia. So they're like,
and we're like,
fuck it.
Screw,
we'll just build one right in the middle of both of us, and that can be the capital, which is such a childish way to solve that issue.
Down in the middle.
And it's only politicians and the people who feed them. That's it. That's all. So funny. Yeah. So funny. Yeah.
I actually, part of the reason why I'm so comfortable wearing ties, I'm actually a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and as a member of the Church of Jesus Latter-day Saints, I knocked doors for a couple of years. Mormons, if y'all.
Yes.
Yeah. But I had my mission in Singapore.
Mormon, I know things.
So I went halfway around the world to Singapore, which was
that's amazing.
Yeah, wonderful cultural, and got to meet people from all over the world because Singapore is just this port city that people come to. So I served with an elder from Australia, from Tasmania, Elder Thayer, and so I got to pick his brain, and we met so many Australians in Singapore and Malaysia and stuff like that. And plus, Singapore and Malaysia left me with a craving for curry that's never really been satisfied.
You're still trying. You're still trying to get that match.
Great Southeast Asian food here. Yeah, we're very spoiled in that department. Yeah.
So jelly.
do not get America does not know what to do with curry. We got a couple of good Indian restaurants out here, but we don't got like takeout.
At least here in the UK, we've got good South Asian curry, like because obviously colonies. But like, not quite so much like kind of Southeast Asian curries, though. I love those incredible. Like they exist here, obviously they do exist, but like not like they do in Australia, I think. But yeah, dang. Curry.
Okay, I'm just realizing. Okay, so after Low Poly Dinos,
Low Poly Dinos, please tell us all about the things that you do. Dinos, back up.
So I did the Low Poly Dinos, and that was really cool. And those models are still out there, and I should probably release. Like I have the paid set of them, but I should probably release more of the unpaid set.
We will link to both in the description.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, all the links.
We'll just put a link to my store, and you can get everything there. The next one I did was called Chibimals, because I was like, I'm making boy toys. I should make toys that are a little bit more attractive to everybody. And so I made these cute, fluffy, round little. This is my fox Tallulah, and I'm playing with some flexible filament right now.
That's a good idea. That's
Churro the armadillo. The ears did not survive the printing process.
Yeah, I was gonna say what happened to his poor ears.
Yeah, no, the flexible filament did not love it.
Yeah,
that is
but he's
so
very
cute. What are you making them in? That's adorable.
So I'm testing out some of this Polymaker Polymaker flexible. What is it called? Polymaker TPU 90.
Okay.
And they sent me a couple of rolls.
What's the shore rating on that?
90.
Besides, there should be a letter too. Something 90 probably.
It's 90, but I don't know. TPU 90.
They're taking the piss.
It's cool. It's a good color though.
Well,
because normally TPU's like black or white, right?
The Polymaker color is like one of my colors, admittedly.
I gotta say, Polymaker are filament alchemists. I don't know. They are really, really good. But so far, like I said, I need to dial into print settings. Anyway, so I made Chibimals, and that did not do as well. People don't like cute little animals as much as they like low poly dinos. So I decided for my next Kickstarter, I was going to go full boy toy. Like I was going to go 100%. And so I made, I've been playing with them over here, a set of building blocks specific for 3D printing. Because see, Legos, they don't 3D print very well. If your 3D printer is off just a little bit, the Lego don't work. These guys are designed to work well even with crappy printers. And if your tolerances off are just a little bit, now it's a combination of a tiny little clip and a hole that prints on the diagonal that allows them to snap together and pull apart and go together. And you can build them in 6 directions, and it's pretty. I love the diamond.
And that's such a functional but beautiful little element. I was just
it kind of creates really well, if I hold it at the right angle, like just that creates its own icon,
No, absolutely. That's nice.
Well done.
And so the first and you can download these online, they're free, the basic set. But if you want to have the accessory set, those I'll charge you for. And I have built accessories to turn them into awesome robot monster cars and tanks and mechs. And I'm going to be, and so the next Kickstarter that I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do some more accessory sets for these, and I'm going to make them animals. We're going to have like giant robot lions and tigers and bears.
I love the I was going to say minotaur, but it's actually just a cow head, but it makes me think of a minotaur.
It's a cow head on a not cow body, I think.
Yeah, it's like that's still close to minotaur in my brain.
You could still call it a minotaur. I got nothing. Like dragster.
I think the tor bit is the cow bit. So it could just be like.
You're right, yeah.
Like car.
Well, then I've also got, as far as robot heads that I made.
Yes.
There was a vote coming in for a
nice.
unicorn, so we rocked that. There was a vote, like, I've got a generic, just, your average Power Rangers robot head.
Sure.
That's cool.
Everyone knows
And
that.
then I've got like that. I need to have all representation, so I made like a woman's head mech.
Cute.
He's got like,
cute. I like her ponytails.
And then actually there was a huge boost from Naomi Wu, so I took her scan, I low polyed her, and I made her
Nice.
So
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I got a Naomi Wu head in there.
That's very cool.
That's fantastic. I have a question. I have a question that might be even a slightly provocative and or thought-provoking question.
Okay.
So you said that the low poly dinos did incredibly well. And then you did the Chibimals, and that didn't do so well. And so you
I still love them.
They're adorable.
I like them too. I think they're really cute. And so like my question is do you think that the Chibimals didn't do as well, perhaps because a lot of kind of tech related stuff and things kind of, because 3D printing is very much a kind of tech STEM sort of thing, which is a subject that is still denied heavily to girls.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that the Chibimals didn't do as well, maybe because of that?
Let me deflect an answer and come back around to this, because I recently had an experience. I did a video recently that did incredibly well. The analytics loved it, and I think the analytics loved it not because it was a good video, but because it was controversial, because I made a slip of the tongue. I was talking about, and also I was bagging on Prusa and Creality in the same video, so
the SEO was
just
wild.
Like basically everyone was angry at you.
My next video is also going to try and piss everybody off, and I'm not meaning to. It's just a thing. Anyway, the point of the video was every time you ask people for a recommendation for what 3D printer to, and I see this on Facebook like 5 times a week. What 3D printer should I get? Everybody says the same 2 printers: get an Ender 3 or get a Prusa. And usually somebody will jump in and say, get an Ender 3, and somebody will say, no, get a Prusa. And my response to that is, those are great printers. Ender 3, fantastic price. You're not going to beat it. Prusa, well-engineered machine, and putting it together is an experience that will educate and bring you closer to the machine. But these are not the best choice for everybody. And in the video, I made some comment about, if you look at the demographics of the people who make those recommendations, they're the same demographics that watch my videos. And here's where I made the mistake. I said mostly white, mostly male. Which is true.
Most is a very vague amount.
Yes, but a lot of people thought that I was saying that 3D printing, that girls can't get into 3D printing, which as I went on, no, and also that blacks can't get into 3D printing.
Also,
and as the video went on, I actually went as far as saying we need to think about 3D printers in a way that will open it up to more people, to which the people who didn't get upset at me thinking that they said that, now all of a sudden thought that I said, oh, you're saying that we need to have more, we need affirmative action in 3D printing? Like, why do the analytics love this one? Everybody's pissed.
It's such a hard discussion to have. It's so difficult. And no matter what you say, people will have strong opinions.
That wasn't my intent.
Yeah.
But because these knob gobblers came out of the woodwork, I'm sorry, I don't have much charitable to say about these people.
No.
But because they all came out of the... Yeah, because they came out of the woodwork and were like, hey, I had one dude. His comment was, why are you bringing race into this? 3D printing and football are the only places that race shouldn't even enter into it. And I'm like,
wait, what?
Did you see your boys taking a knee?
What? Yeah, what are you kidding me?
Yeah, wait, well,
I think people who say that sort of stuff just literally don't know what it's like to be discriminated against. Like they just and they think they do because they were bullied in high school and they think that's the same thing, and it's not. It's just not. If you think that in the audience that you understand being discriminated against because you were bullied in high school, you don't. So listen to people who are talking.
No.
Like
there's a lot of truth
so
to that.
while that wasn't my intent, I have had to back up those statements and say, there was one guy who's like, 3D printers don't care who's racist. And I'm like, you're right. They don't. So where's the problem?
Yeah, maybe it's the people around.
And it's the same. And it's the same thing in computer science. There were a lot of women at the beginning of computer science. Ada Lovelace, Grace Hopper.
They invented it.
Very much. I mean, mind you, it was Babbage was also in there. There were a lot of men in there as well. But as soon as the nerds started squatting it,
I gotta get something that's very important.
They made it a hostile environment for the women, and of course they're not going to say yes.
There's a great book. I highly recommend this book. I don't know if it might be in reverse, but yeah, it's the thrilling adventures of Lovelace and Babbage, and it's fantastic. The mostly true story of the first computer. Highly recommended. Anyway, sorry.
What's funny is his computer was never actually built. Although I have.
But she also kind of died young and in a not good way.
Victorian times, she was wearing a corset when she worked out that logic. That's like wasn't it before? It was before the 1900s. It was 1800s.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It was like high.
She very much invented the first computer far before actual computers were invented.
So her contribution, and this is interesting. Her contribution was not the computer. Babbage came up with the computer. She came up with the idea of making a symbolic programming language that you could make the computer not just do computations and calculations, but actually like maybe think just a little bit about what it's doing. And of course, it wasn't until Turing and the Turing machine and things like that it started to actually come into reality. And then Grace Hopper's contribution, she wrote Fortran. So it's interesting to me that the men, and again, this is an overgeneralization and it could have happened either way, but it's interesting to me that the men are putting together the hardware and the women are going, can we make this a little bit, I don't know, smarter to use? And again, that's not making that's just an observation. I'm not saying it had to go that way. Yeah.
He's like, I have opinions.
But let's just say I agree with you, Joe.
Yeah. And in that video, I said, there are easy to use 3D printers. I love my FlashForge Adventurer 3. I love all of the printers that FlashForge makes because they put such a good emphasis on making it so easy to use. And I mean, the Adventurer 3 is right here. Hold on.
It's listening to us.
Hello. Yeah, that is very
because very I can sit on my computer and go, I want to print this thing, run it, and there's a button in my slicer that says print it. And I hit that button and the printer goes, okay. I don't have to run an SD card or nothing. It's so stupid.
I know someone who runs a business on FlashForges. Yeah.
I will definitely say that I wouldn't take back a FlashForge being my first printer because it was very easy to use when I knew nothing. I did eventually. I felt like I outgrew it. It also wasn't an adventure. It was a Finder, which are this big. And I wanted
they're not great.
Bigger. But it wasn't. I always refer to it as baby's first printer. Like it was a wonderful first step into 3D printing when I knew nobody and nothing, because it did just work. And so, absolutely.
And there's a lot of fail points in 3D printing. If you get a Prusa and you don't want to put it together, you're done. And if you get a Prusa and you do put it together, no,
I cannot.
And if you put it together and you don't find the community to help you fix the problems, you're done. No, if you get it together then you've got this great experience of putting it together. And if you find community, you've got a lot of great friends, and everybody who's defending it is like, but the community is important to this, and I wouldn't trade my experience for the community. And I'm like, yes, I wouldn't
But you
want
don't know
you
where to find it.
but it's a fail point, and it shouldn't be a prerequisite to using the dang thing. And so, that was the point of that video, but it ended up being a whole discussion about why aren't there more minorities and women and people who are not cis white males in this. And that's, I mean, I'm sitting here with two, not males, but y'all are white, but nevertheless, there are a lot of people of a lot of variety, but I would say that like 80% of it look like me.
Yeah, I would agree. And the funny thing is that we actually have, the three of us here, we actually have tools at our disposal. We have analytics tools at our disposal that actually confirm this. This isn't just we're looking around seeing three people and going, oh yeah, it's all white dudes. It is actually provable. It is provable with data, because
and so the question is
information in their YouTube profiles and stuff like that. We can see where people are from.
And I've done surveys on the subreddits and stuff as well. Yeah, like the 3D printing Discord, we've done surveys, and there are 3% women. Yeah.
And so all of this circling back around, do I think that Chibimals did not do as well because the audience for them who are 3D printing not boys is very small? More than that, I also think 3D printing boys who are willing to pay for a package of 3D print models, very, very, very small. And I think that the majority
important metric.
I think that the majority of people who are backing up the Chibimals Kickstarter were supporting me because they like my YouTube content, not because they like that particular project. So yeah, I do think that that Chibimals was not the right project for the audience, and if I want to make money, I have to make boy toys. Okay,
which is a shame, because I bet there is a market out there for Chibimals, but they're somewhere else, and you'd have to reach much further to get to them, which sucks.
Two things. It's not that big a shame because these are freaking awesome.
They are.
I mean,
they're pretty great.
You're still making awesome stuff. It's nice. It's nice if you don't have to necessarily tailor what you want to do to what you think people will pay for.
But that said, I think that there is a market for Chibimals, and I definitely want to pursue that market.
Neopets. Oh my God, Neopets did so incredibly well. There is a market for sure.
I still have my Neopets.
I have another 3D printer over here that I haven't done the video for, but will be soon. I don't know if you guys can see this little monstrosity.
Oh, wait. Do I know what this is? This looks familiar.
It's hiding in the corner of... There it is. I mean, like it's literally nestled.
Cute.
The ToyBox.
That's cute.
Now, that 3D printer, I think, is going to be the new market for the Chibimals because I have never used a 3D printer that was easier. You literally pull up the app and you go, ooh, I want to print this, and it starts. No settings.
No slicing. Wow.
No slicing. Now, the technicals of how they achieve that is they pre-slice all their files, which they can only do if they only have one type of 3D printer. They cache them on their website. Your 3D printer hooks up to their website, and their website says, hey, 3D printer, here's G-code, print it. And it goes, okay.
And because it's the same printer, there's no variation, they can...
the G-code's going to work every time. Exactly. And it's brilliant, and I love it. And at the same time, I have some suggestions.
No doubt. As you should.
Yeah, I feel like they should, I don't know. Well, first of all, I would love this interface to just be a little box that you could plug into your Ender 3. I would love to have an offline option that I could have on my computer, but just as simple, just say, I want to print this and have it go. And hey, if you want to make me real happy, interface, make a little Blender plugin so I can say, click file, print file, and it will take that 3D model and it will slice it up and fix it up and send it to the printer for me. You know?
Yeah.
Very tasty. Yeah.
Also, it would be
That would
nice if it were a little bit bigger because I think its build volume is like 80 by 80 by 80 millimeters.
Wow,
Oh,
even
wow.
resin printers are bigger. Dang.
That might
like-
be the smallest. Like,
Yeah,
fine for
it's-
that, and only that.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
again, I thought the Finder was small, and it's like double that. Like, that's bad.
but at the same time,
boy.
I think that is the sort of market that Chibimals would do well on because kids would be like, "Ooh, I want to have these animals," and just hit it and go and have a toy. I also think that this market would do well if they were pre-made toys. So what I'm going to be doing with Chibimals, what I've been playing with doing with them is that's going to be my TikTok videos. I'm going to make cute little Chibimal animations.
There you
I'm
go.
gonna make them doing little things on the farm and pulling up and cute little animation and
That is
1 minute animation. Boom.
Yep.
That is awesome. I love that. That'll be adorable. Hell
And I'm
yeah.
also going to have an ARG embedded within it to get the adult interaction.
What's an ARG? Oh, like a joke that only adults get?
No.
What?
ARGs are augmented reality games. So every once in a while, there will be like a glitch in the video. And if you look closely, there will be a code embedded. And if you decode that code, it will lead you to additional information and additional lore and what's going on behind the Chibimals. And could it be demons? It's not demons. But
I love this. I love this. That is so
you already
fun.
have the AR back end figured out for that?
maybe a lot more than I probably should have. Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
Okay, so I'm the sort of
I
mind
worked
that
in AR at one point, so like I'm slightly more familiar with what goes into it than a lot of people, and I think a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, AR, like I'll just totally do an augmented. It's like, do you know what you need to do first? Like, do you know what is required for this?
I mean, I don't know. I could let you in on the doc if you want to give me some feedback for it, but then you wouldn't have a chance to learn it yourself in real time as we unleash it. But it's probably gonna take me 3 years before I finally do that.
Yeah, I'll forget it by then. If you show me now and then it happens in 3 years, I won't remember anything.
Oh, yeah, no, same. Absolutely.
So the deal is, I'm the sort of artist that I start doing it like a sketch, and in the time that it takes me to do the sketch of what I'm drawing, while my hands work and my brain is going, what's the backstory behind this whole thing that I'm doing? And I end up, and so when I was coming up with the world of Chibimals, I think the thing that really, look at that, there's some Chibimals right here that my kids play with all the time. But when I made the tractor, I was like, I don't want to have like a smokestack on my tractor because the world of Chibimals wouldn't have like pollution. And then I was all of a sudden like, well, what is the world of Chibimals? And how does this exist in reality? And
4
from this
hours later, there's a backstory written and possibly an RPG.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, no, you shouldn't hang out with me. I am an enabler. I'm an idea enabler.
Actually, I'm actually glad that they're there because I forgot to grab many Chibimals. Hold on, let me grab these real fast.
Yes, do it.
Like,
Yes, please.
2 minutes of dead time. Covet them on yourself.
Oh, this is so cute. I love it. I love this whole idea.
I am grateful. I am grateful that we got a good, thorough answer to my question because I knew it was not an easy question. It was a difficult question. So
it is definitely.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you answered my challenging question thoroughly and honestly. Hi. Hello. You want to come say hi?
Is it a turkey? It's adorable. Oh my god, I love it.
That's the Chibimal turkey. This is the Chibimal chicken.
That is so cute. Oh.
And then this was the 3D printed barn with embedded hinge.
Oh my god, these are so cute. I need all of them.
I'll hook you up.
Totally a market for this.
And then this is the tractor had a little shift on top, but it's also like bulbous and chub. And see, no smokestack.
Yeah, and it's got a little face. Its headlights kind of look like a cute little. I love it.
It's perfect. It gives off no CO2. What are you doing?
Is this your cat?
Yeah.
Being cheeky.
She is being cheeky. She's like trying to climb up on my box.
My goal is to learn Blender animation so that I can make cute little animations of these characters walking around and doing these. And I have written out.
Do you model them in Blender?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I model all my stuff in Blender.
Then yes, 100%. You can learn how to animate.
Yeah, no, I already. I did a test animation already. It was garbage. I need to do a better one. But yeah. And little 1-minute animations, and that's the future of Chibimals. Is I'm going to be putting these on TikTok and building an audience for. And I have written out. I'm not kidding you, like an 8-season quest for these characters to go on to explore different worlds in Chibimals, and each one of them is a new modeling project for me. So it starts on the farm, it goes to the jungle. I think I'd go to Australia after that. Down Underland is what it's called.
Down Underland, yeah. That makes sense.
Because Australia has such a wealth of unique animals, and I love them. So we're gonna have platypuses and cockatoos and kangaroos and all sorts of stuff like that. And I've literally mapped a globe, and each of these worlds is a section of the globe, and I've mapped the path that they're going to go around the entire sphere up to the Arctic.
I love to plan this all out. I love that this is all planned out.
This is wonderful.
It's all planned out. Great. I just need to execute.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Time is absolutely a thing. I'm familiar with it, or the lack.
But the other thing is, I'm also planning on releasing the ARG clues in layers, and the ARG that's going on behind this whole thing. I've planned it out so that it can happen as it's going, and like at this point the clues are going to get more complex, but hopefully at this point this thing will take off and it will be self-sustaining, and then I can put more effort into the clues, and like you'll decode the codes and it will take you to maybe a glitchy video clip of something, and then at the end of the season I'll release the whole video. So
that's fun. I remember when the Harry Potter website first came out, and there was like little mysteries and stuff that you could solve on it, and everyone was nuts for that. We loved it. Yeah.
That's the idea behind an ARG. I think the first one was for Halo. It was a website called I Love Bees or something like that, and it turned out that the rogue AI in Halo had traveled back in time into a bees website. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, look up I Love Bees. It's fascinating, but that kind of started the whole thing. And then Portal did an ARG after that, and now everybody's doing them, and now they're going to be Chibimals. So
that's awesome.
There's augmented reality is still very, very interesting and still feels very sci-fi, I think, to a lot of people. So it's been around for a while now. It's definitely not a super new technology. There's still there's a lot that can be done with it. And I like the idea of subtle augmented reality inside something else as opposed to it being the main focus, because it can also be super gimmicky when it's
it can also be, and I'm concerned about that. Now I'm also concerned about I want people to get the wrong idea. Right. Yeah, well, I want people to get the wrong idea about it, and so the hints that I'm going to drop are going to be intentionally misleading a little bit. But at the same time, this is a children's show, and I don't want people like we talked about TikTok and Roblox, and all of these are like people are doing awful things with this. And if the rumor comes out that they're all dead and actually in hell and demons, like that's going to get on the news,
Well, let's not do that then. Yeah. You might end up with the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic on your hands, where there's a strong adult community that kind of took it their own direction. And then I don't know how they handle that. That would be really hard I do
not look forward to the day when I discover that there's a Rule 34 page for Chibimals.
Just don't look, man.
Just never Google it. Never Google it.
I can know that it's there and not have to look at it.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to not know, though. Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Well, that's what Rule 34 is. It doesn't matter if you know or not. It's there.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's really funny because I feel like I get the impression, I guess, rolling back slightly to your provocative video. I imagine that has perhaps not been the most fun experience, or at least dealing with the aftermath, not necessarily the video itself. But I think that it is a fantastic thing that you are the person who is kind of like, yeah, you know what? This thing that we all know but want to acknowledge right here, this thing, yeah, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
And it sucks that even somebody like that basically that nobody's exactly spared from online abuse. It does seem to affect the best of us, and then kind of in a scale goes up from there.
The sad reality is that if we're going to make any progress in equality, racial, gender, otherwise, it's the people who are by default at the top that are going to make the difference. I don't know if you ever heard the story, but I'm going to get the details wrong, and hopefully somebody's going to get really upset and correct me. But I think it was the Black
Maybe
Panthers.
they'll just correct you without being upset. It happens.
I think it was the Black Panthers. Were the Black Panthers and Martin Luther King concurrent? I don't remember. This is civil rights in America.
My history with dates, or sorry, my memory for dates is really, really bad. So I am not the person to answer this confidently at all. Not without a Google.
And I had a friend of mine tell me this story, and I thought it was brilliant. So I'm going to tell it the way that I remember it, and if I'm wrong, somebody will correct me in the comments. But the Black Panthers were trying to gather data to prove that there was not just systemic, but actual like overt racism in the government. They couldn't get nowhere on it until a couple of white people who were, hip to their cause, dressed up, put on nice suits, and walked into the CIA.
Yeah.
If they were black, they would have been stopped at the door.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Because these were a couple of white folks, they let them, and they were wearing suits. They let them in. Nobody stopped them. And they found the documents that proved that the CIA had blackmailed Martin Luther King to try and get him to stop with threats of exposing some possibly made up sexual misconduct claims. And it was only possible because a couple of white people decided to take the cause of equality into their own hands and take advantage of the fact that as a white person, we're allowed to just walk into, the CIA. Not that they're allowed to walk into the CIA anymore, but...
No, that's probably changed a bit. But they made the conscious decision to find a way to use their privilege in a helpful and useful way. And that is, because that is the thing, isn't it? Yeah, we're going here today. Sorry, folks, this is happening. I came here with my sassy pants on, and they haven't gone anywhere.
Your sassy pants and your rainbow sweater.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Full of it today. The thing
you
about
are literally wearing it on your sleeve.
I love this sweater though. I want to wear it all the time.
It's beautiful.
I do love it. It's actually comfy too, which is just like that's always the just the best when something looks good and is comfortable, which doesn't happen all the time in women's clothing. Like, let's be real, it's not the most common thing. It's always a nice thing. Oh yeah, and it was cheap, so like trifecta. Anyway, though, privilege. The thing with privilege is that you don't choose to have it or not have it. It is a thing that you have or you don't. You can be privileged in certain areas and not in others. This is the whole idea of intersectionality, that these things stack, that they stack up, they influence each other. These things don't exist in a vacuum. But you can't help the privilege you do or don't have. But what you do with it is what you can control.
Absolutely.
So I can't, you cannot help the color of your skin, sure, 100%. But you
mind you, if I could, I would absolutely choose white every time.
It's certainly easy mode, like it's absolutely easy mode. There's no denying it.
Okay, you say that, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, at the beginning of my life, did I choose easy mode? I am a scrub.
I mean, I guess it depends.
Sitting up there in heaven, it's like, so which parents would you like to choose? And you're like, easy mode.
yeah. Like it depends on if you've seen Soul and if you subscribe to that whole model just kind of choosing some stuff beforehand. But yeah, what you can't necessarily help the privilege you have, but you can help what you do with it. And so using it to help people is a great thing. I know it's something that is very important to me personally, because I know that there are certain areas in which I have it and certain areas in which I don't. And so the areas in where I have it, I would like to use it for good. And then the areas in which I don't, I definitely appreciate when other people step in. So it's
that having the serenity to accept what you can't change and the wisdom to change what you can.
Yeah. So and admittedly, that is a thing that is tough for a lot of people to accept, because I think that when you've been hurt, regardless of how or where or why, you have a tendency to feel like you're owed something, that you've been wronged, you've been hurt, and so therefore, like,
and you blame somebody else for it.
You should be given a break because you've been hurt. Where's my break? And so in that kind of that hurt and in that pain, people sometimes tend to forget that, first of all, everyone's hurting. Just kind of like everyone's going through.
Everyone is fighting a battle that you know nothing about.
Yeah,
so be
absolutely.
kind.
But also all of the things that potentially could have gone wrong but didn't because of X privilege. So it's very easy to kind of, I think, lose perspective. Yes. And it's good to continue to try and find it and hold on to it. And then once you have it, kind of spread it to other people. So, because that is really the only way that we are going to get ahead. We all have to kind of get caught up. I like the idea of equity over equality, because if it was as simple as equality,
we're not all,
I think,
we're not all equal.
We're not equal.
But that doesn't mean that
up to get there. So there's work to be done. There's definitely work to be done, and I think that we're working on it, but we're not there yet. So we will keep going. I'm so sorry. My sassy pants are really.
Listen, I'm about ready to jump in with you, and I'm going to really tick off any of the other members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who are listening, because I'm going to bring some scripture into this topic. You ready?
This is scandalous.
Oh, hey, here we go.
I love a good scandal.
Mind you, you won't find this in the Bible. One of the defining factors of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is that it started with a new book of scripture being added to the canon. We have the Bible.
Yes, I've heard tales. I've never read one. I'm a Jew, so they're not a common book in my people's household.
Although to be clear, we kind of share at least a couple of books of the Old Testament, so
So there's some overlap.
Okay, I got nothing.
But in addition to the Christian Bible, we've also added the Book of Mormon, and then on top of that, additional books, Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price. And in the Pearl of Great Price, there's a very interesting, where God is talking to Moses, I think. It's called the Book of Moses. We purport to have a book that was lost to time, that was restored, that is a dialogue between God and Moses. And at one point, God says to Moses, where there are any two bodies, one will be greater than the other. In other words, life ain't fair. Somebody's
Yeah.
always going to have the upper hand. But then he follows it up with this: I, God, am greater than them all. Not to say, as God, I am the greatest. No, I am greater than, take everybody you got, add them all together. I am greater than that. And in that perspective, with God, if you believe God is looking over us with love and care and kindness and compassion, every one of us is insignificant, is equally insignificant. So on the one hand, he says, ain't nobody equal, but ain't nobody equal to me. So what you complaining about? Be nice to your fellow men, because y'all are nothing compared to me, and I love you all.
I do always like this. I always like the stuff, the scripture, the stories. That's the sort of thing that is the stuff that is about, love and stuff like that. It always feels like you don't hear that stuff nearly enough. Again, saying this is somebody not coming from that religious background, or really much of any at all, but it is always I like hearing the nice stories. I like hearing the nice
well, and mind you, the way that it's written, people might not interpret it as that, but
it does sound like it has the potential to be interpreted a range of ways, which
for sure. But the way I choose to interpret that is, we don't get to feel like we're hot stuff down here. There is somebody who is greater than any of us, and we are all equally insignificant, and he loves us and cares about us. So why can't we show just a little bit of love for each other?
Yeah, I like your interpretation.
I like your interpretation. It's a good one.
Thank you.
It's a good one.
That is definitely much nicer than I think a lot of people's interpretations would be.
Well, and I do want to bring up one other thing. There are a lot of people in the comments on that video who are like, hey, I had one guy calling me a racist because in his opinion, to see race makes you racist. And shouldn't we all just not see race? And
no.
and my first response to him was, I don't think it's particularly racist to look around the room and notice that it's pretty monochromatic. And he was like, nope, that's totally racist. And I'm like, okay, well, we ain't living in Martin Luther King's dream yet.
No, we're far from it. We're far from it.
And when I can make a slip of the tongue that sounds like women can't do technology, when what I really mean is, people who don't have technological confidence, regardless of who they are, should have accommodations for that. But I make a slip of the tongue and say white males are into this stuff. Those two should not be able to be synonymous. And
I mean,
they are.
I understand you perfectly fine. Like you said what you said, and it was like, this is not unclear to me. I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah. What is the confusion here?
but the confusion is that they thought I was saying that only white men could get into technology. No, that's not what I was saying. But the fact that it could be interpreted that way, kind of telling.
Yeah.
I do admittedly think that people sometimes like to apply their own mental to statements.
There was a lot of that going on.
Because again, I didn't hear you say that at all. Yeah. I did not hear, like, I can try and see how other people heard it, and I'm still just kind of like.
So let me do say, you were like, oh, that was uncomfortable and unpleasant to go through, and it was, but at the same time, I don't mind going through that. I don't mind standing up for other people, because who else is gonna,
And it sucks when someone has to stand up for themselves a bunch too. Like it shouldn't be on, like, with the Black Lives Matter movement, it shouldn't be on them to change our problems, like we're the ones causing the problem. So it should be on us to change, like, yeah. Like, it's not fair.
I had the opportunity to, so I'm a very skeptical soul, I guess. And anytime that I get a knee-jerk reaction to something, I go, wait, why do I feel that way?
Yes.
here's the thing, and you had said something earlier, and I didn't question it to you, but let's question it right now. You're like, if the Nazis are against it, I'm against it. Why?
It was mostly meant as a joke, but
Sure,
but as a general
we react
rule
that
of
way, don't we?
thumb, yeah, as a
The
general
Nazi.
rule of thumb, if
Hold on.
Nazis,
Were Nazis so bad? Did they never do anything good?
no, I would not make that claim. There was some animal rights stuff going on, some good roads, you know.
Hitler lowered taxes, cleaned up the roads. He did a lot of good stuff. So
And
why
then
do
there
we?
was some horrific stuff.
Yes.
Unfathomably horrific. So yeah, when I made that joke, which I think happened before we hit record,
Okay.
but I think it was I don't even remember how it started.
I've
but
lost
it was like,
track now.
it was like,
Yeah.
but I said if the Nazis are against it, I'm generally against it. I think I said I'm against it. But
You said
yeah, I meant
you're against it.
Yeah, if the Nazis are for it, I'm against it. Oh, did I say that wrong? Oh my god!
Vice versa.
Thank you for correcting me.
So I had the opportunity to question myself, and I said, why do I get this knee-jerk reaction? Why does when somebody says Nazi, I go, yes, bad guy. Wait, why? And so I took the opportunity to read a translation of Mein Kampf, because I honestly wanted to question my own bias on this subject. Now, after reading it, I can say this. First of all, Hitler was a terrible writer. I don't know. I mean, you give this book to 1,000 people and you might be able to find some people who agree with him. But secondly, he made a lot of choices out of fear. He was afraid that the Jewish people were against him. And so he felt he needed to strike first.
Yeah.
And I heard this echoed recently. I just completely randomly on archive.org ran across a white supremacist manifesto. And they laid out that they are going to, blacks are going to attack us for the atrocities that we've done, so we have to attack them first.
Oh, the irony. Oh, yeah.
When people act out of fear, they make stupid choices.
Yeah.
Every time. I'll give you an example. Whenever, like, I was doing, I think it was the Kickstarter for, it was after the Kickstarter for PrintABlok. COVID-19 had started. And I was like, man, people are going to be suffering, and I'm taking their money. I should offer people refunds, no questions asked. And there was an immediate fear in me. I was like, I'm going to lose every penny that I need, and I need this money to support my family. And as soon as I felt that fear, I've trained myself that when I feel that fear, I go, nope, just do it. Just do it. So I did. I offered everybody who had bought into the Kickstarter at any level a full refund. Keep the models. I'm not going to take those back from you. Please just keep yourself afloat. And if this money is stopping you, I want you to have it. It was scary. I was afraid that I was going to lose everything I'd put out there. I didn't. I had like 2 people take me up on it. And it was fine. And I had nothing to be afraid of. And it ended up being a very, very good thing.
And you slept well at night. Imagine if you hadn't done that and you kept thinking about it for weeks and weeks and being like, oh, is someone suffering? And am I contributing to, like, you would have felt terrible. And now you don't have to feel terrible because you did the right thing. So
it is almost like you had faith.
So, anytime I see somebody reacting out of fear, my initial reaction is, you're going to be making a mistake. Don't do that.
Or at the very least, the questioning. The questioning's great. Honestly, we should all interrogate ourselves more. We should all get to know ourselves more because so often we lack a basic sense of self-awareness about stuff, which if you slow down for a second and ask, why do I think this way? And it doesn't even have to be about fear specifically, but it can be about anything. Question yourself. Ask yourself questions. Ask yourself why you're feeling this thing or thinking this thing. And get
anything that is true and right and good can stand up to a little bit of interrogation.
And you might learn something about yourself that you really benefit from. That's absolutely. Questioning why you think something, why you're afraid of something.
And looping back around to the topic, questioning why there aren't a more diverse audience who are doing technology and making and 3D printing. Don't be afraid to question it.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I am very grateful that more people are asking the question, because the somewhat ironic thing is that there are people who have answers to that question. Like, I'm sure Billy and I are sat here thinking to ourselves, yeah, I know some reasons why. I know some reasons why. You know,
We
like
have some theories
we
why, but I'm hesitant to state anything as a definitive fact until it's been tested.
sure.
For as much of a man of faith as I am, I do believe in the scientific method as well.
And obviously we can only ever speak to our own experiences with any kind of definitiveness, but like
Right.
so often we don't share these things because we don't necessarily feel able to, we don't feel safe to, we don't feel like it will be listened to or heard, and so
That it would
does
damage other prospects.
Well,
You know,
if
like
you
if I
ever
went
need
on a little.
if you ever need a platform to boost your you know whatever
When we got our sassy
controversial subject, you know.
so yeah, kind of going back to the white guys walking into the CIA, it does take the people at the top asking the questions and starting the conversations that allows the people to start actually going, actually, the reason for this thing is this thing, or I've experienced this, and these other 10 people have also experienced this thing. And it's it takes certain people asking the questions and starting the conversations and providing the space for the other people to bring the answers and bring the information and
Very,
the
very true.
experiences, that then you start to actually have a more complete picture that you can maybe do something.
Speaking to that, after this video blew up and all of a sudden I found myself embroiled in a race battle.
When was this, by the way?
Like a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Relatively
recently. It's the video on my channel that is, don't buy a Prusa or Ender 3 until you watch this video.
You went for that good YouTube clickbait SEO. Yeah.
And within like the first minute of the video, I apologized for going for the clickbait, but this was right before Christmas.
You got it on YouTube.
Actually,
it doesn't work otherwise.
Grief, it's February. No, this was a couple months ago then. Because this was right before Christmas. I knew that a lot of grandmas are buying a lot of 3D printers for a lot of kids who weren't going to use them. And so I was like, I got to get
I want grandma. I'm sorry. I didn't want this grandma. I want grandma buying me a 3D printer.
And I was like, I gotta clickbait this sucker to get it out there. And then I misstepped with the racial statement, and that became the whole point of the comment section. I don't regret it at this point. I'm like, this has been good. But after this,
you started a conversation.
And so after this, I had the question in my mind, in myself, are we really racist in the 3D printing community? And so I reached out to Jay, and I reached out to other members of the 3D printing community that are, representative of other races. I'm always curious of whether we can say people of color. I know that there are words that we can't say. I'm never sure.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident that people of color is a term. It doesn't always apply. That's actually important.
And the thing is, whenever I say people of color, I'm also including Hispanics, Asians, just all non-white.
Yes, that is. I think that is my understanding. Happy to be corrected by somebody. My understanding of the term people of color is that it is a very blanket statement, sort of. It is a very blanket inclusion sort of thing of basically anyone who's not white. And then
the funny thing was, though,
are more specific,
right,
towards individual groups, because obviously not everyone under that umbrella has. So, but in this case,
in the video I used a term. Yeah, I think in the video I used the term people of color, and people were like, "Why are you saying black people can't?" I said color. I didn't say black, But I reached out to Jay, and I reached out to a couple other people, and I had nice long conversations, and I asked them, do you feel that this community is racist, and what can we do about it? And their response to me was, actually, no, this community is so open and so kind and so willing to accept people who are not like them that they haven't felt at all discriminated against or even made a little bit uncomfortable for being in there. And I felt really good because I was ready after that video, after the comments on that video, I was ready to run up the flag, declare war, and just sink my whole channel to bring equality. And I was basically asking them, how do I go about this? And their response was, yeah, you kind of don't need to. You guys are pretty good people. Which at that point, I think takes the pressure off of this community and puts it more on economics, I'm afraid. There's a reason why in a neighborhood of predominantly colored people, whatever color that may be, that a child is more likely to be given an opportunity to learn basketball than electronics.
Yeah, there's massively systemic issues.
Massively systemic issues at play, and we're just seeing the symptom of those in our community. We're looking at the trickle down, and that's why you got to question it, and 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 so like I said, I was ready to call out the 3D printing community and the making community as being a bunch of racist idiots. And but before I did that, I went and talked to the people who would be having that experience, and they said, no, it's not you guys. And so if it's not us, who is it? Where is it?
It's definitely there, but if it's not so bad here, then that is something. I'm surprised and pleased and definitely a little relieved and perhaps still a little skeptical, but also hopeful, I guess.
Yeah, looks like Billy's got some like ponderances about this subject.
I have been pondering because I've always loved science my whole life, and I didn't pursue it as a tertiary education until relatively recently, and I went into very traditionally female roles. When I left school, I worked in costume making, which is sewing, and then I worked in fashion, then I worked in admin, and then I worked in learning and creating learning, and I've done a lot of reflecting over the years as to why that is, because science was such a huge part of my childhood, and why didn't I choose it? Why didn't I pursue it? And it's been a question for a long time. Why did I end up in these quite female-dominated roles when I had an upbringing that was, my parents did the best they could to make sure it was very egalitarian and is that the word? Anyway, they raised me almost genderless for most of my childhood. You know, I had pretty gender neutral toys and colors, and I hated Barbie as a child. I just didn't like it at all. And you can tell I'm quite girly now, so that's changed somewhere along the way. And I was reflecting upon why that was.
There's a lot of pink in your. It's like
there is.
If you average the pixels.
There's a hue of pink, yeah, which is kind of surprising because I definitely hated pink when I was a child.
I think mine is mostly beige.
I definitely have a color scheme.
Yeah, rainbow.
I think yours was just all
I love yours.
Brown in the end.
Fabulous.
It's too many conflicting off both ends of the spectrum.
And I've done a lot of reflecting as to why that was, and like everyone always said, you know, women can do anything men can do, and I was always told all these things when I was a child, and
but there was clearly
believed them. But there's like there's clearly was something subconscious in there, because there's such traditionally female roles that I went into. Like really, if you were listing them off the top of the head, the only one I didn't knock out was nurse, probably. You know, of the like top 5. You know,
some sort of caretaker. Some sort of caretaker role.
And I've always been fascinated with biology and medicine and all that. And why didn't I do it? And the conclusion I came to a little while ago was I honestly hadn't seen anyone who was like me do those things. So I couldn't properly believe that it was possible, even though people told me it was possible. Our pattern recognition brain and my pattern recognition brain didn't fully deep down believe it until I'd done a lot of questioning and I got to my near 30s and then went, oh yeah, this is actually who I am and what I want to do with my life.
Representation is very important.
Very important.
So
which is why it's exciting to see.
You can do this, you can do this. I hadn't believed it. I hadn't.
Well, which
And
is why it's exciting to see Jay on the cover of Make Magazine this month. We need to, it was exciting to see Naomi on the cover of Make Magazine. We need to see more women. We need more representation. And I think Make Magazine is a fantastic resource because they do feature a lot of women. Jay, he went through the back archives and he realized that he was the first Black individual.
yeah, I was like, ooh, that's kind of telling. Yeah.
And again, I don't think it's intentional. But we definitely need to see what we can do about it. And so to the people on the comments on my video who are like, are we fighting for affirmative action? I mean, if that's what it takes.
I mean, again,
I remember
equity.
I remember reading this not reading, I was watching this lecture from a guy from Boston Consulting Group, and he was talking about how they had implemented affirmative action into their organization where they would have to hire like certain percentages of people.
Right.
And people were up in arms about it, which happens every time. And he said,
naturally,
when the split, it was for women in their particular organization. That's what they were starting with. When the split is 60 women, 40% men, then we can have a talk. Like then you can complain. And I was like, interesting take.
Yeah.
When it becomes slightly skewed in the other direction, then maybe we can reassess this. But until that point,
and having studied like video games, which also has very low percentages of women, and knowing that the women in that degree, because I did chemistry and video games side by side, knowing that the women in that degree had they were in the top percentage, like all the top places of GPA were held by women for about 10% maybe even, and then a couple more women scattered throughout. Knowing that they were excelling in that, and then knowing that that didn't translate to the industry, there's something happening because the skill is there. The skill is there. It's like there's something else going on. It's not like there aren't people interested and
it might be as simple as what you say, that as a young child they never had anybody to look at and go, ooh, that could be me, because it looked like them.
And not just women too,
always,
like in science.
Always one part of the problem.
For sure.
Yeah. And like in science, it's not just having women too, but having diverse women, because like there are women in science, but they're all like prim and proper, and I'm a serious scientist, and I'm not a serious person. Yeah, and I like being pretty and girly and a bit sexy. You
Raven,
know,
the science Maven.
Raven.
Oh
Twitter.
yes, yeah.
Incredible. Raven is just so
she
inspiring.
introduced me to the term ratchet.
So good.
I think more than anything, I appreciate her being unapologetically herself and unapologetically Black, like not code switching for the sake of everyone else when it comes to just who she is, but also the fact that she's brilliant. She's a brilliant scientist, and these things can exist together in the same way that a Chinese woman with an incredibly, provocative body can also be incredibly brilliant with technology and science. And these things can exist at the same time in the same person. They're not incongruent.
Yes.
People just think they are.
Now, the other side of this conversation that we need to address, though, is that the reason why there's pushback, the reason why when I make a video suggesting that we need more diversity in 3D printing, that so many people are like, what's wrong with you, is because there is a fear that the people who are already there will lose something. That this isn't necessarily.
I'll have something taken from them.
And the answer is, yeah, you might be.
Some of them more than others. Some of them more than others.
If you got the skills, you don't have a problem. If you're only getting in there on your privilege, you don't deserve it. And if you're a decent
person, then you'll probably be fine. But also, if you're not, you might not be.
There's
consequences for
consequences. What are those?
I know. This is revolutionary.
Yeah, no kidding.
Admittedly, I feel like this is the topic in the conversation today has not gone in the way it usually does. but I think it's been.
Well, that's what happens when you get a Mormon
really
in the
good.
chat. No, I was kidding.
Very different to previous Mormon
fucking love it.
experiences.
This has been fantastic,
And I say that
and the perspective you brought has been really
not for the reason
interesting.
that people might think. Anyway, yes.
Well, I mean, to be 100% fair, I'm okay. So I'm not conservative. Many people who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are, but I'm also
definitely got
not
the impression.
liberal. Yeah, definitely. But I'm also not liberal. When I lived in Colorado, which was largely liberal, especially where I was living, everybody was like, "You conservative Mormon." And then I move out here to Utah, where everybody's conservative, and everybody's like, "What are you, a friggin' liberal?" And I realized that what I am is a moderate, and I have taken that. I am now an aggressive moderate. I'm to the point where I don't trust either side. I don't even trust myself. I make sure to question everything. Skepticism.
You're a
everything.
skeptic. You're a
Yeah.
skeptic. Yeah. Yeah.
Aggressive moderate. And that doesn't mean that I feel that the truth is in the middle. That means that I feel like the truth is probably a little bit of the left, a little bit of the right. Both sides have strong arguments.
It's funny because whenever I hear somebody say, "I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm this," when I've been talking to them for the past hour or so, I'm always very curious to kind of be like, okay, so how do you define those things? You said I'm not a liberal, which you may not be. You may like it's a broad word. It's a broad word.
Yeah.
But I also would have probably said you were, by my definition, just based on talking to you. So that makes me then curious how you, because it's again, like you said, question everything. So I'm kind of interesting.
I haven't yet decided, I haven't taken time off from my 3D printing to write the moderate manifesto yet. But it's stewing.
It might not go well. I don't know.
Okay. Let me.
Don't die.
Yeah, no, I don't. I got a little cough in my throat, and I forgot to bring some water. Let me just say, I'm not going to answer that with any specific examples.
No, and honestly, you don't have to. You don't have to.
But
I was just thinking. Curious.
I if we started bringing up topics that you might at this point assume that I agree with, you might be surprised to have me go, well, hold on one second. On that one, we might have to roll it back a little bit. And I'm not going to bring up any specific examples, but I do have some in my head that
we'll turn off the camera first.
Yeah, we'll turn off the camera when we get to that discussion. And so that's the way that I define being a moderate, is that I can't agree with everything that I hear the liberals say, and I can't agree with everything that I hear the conservatives say, but I can agree with some of them, and I can see the strength in both of their arguments. I don't think that the correct answer is neither. I think the correct answer is a little from column A and a little.
So you're not an anarchist. You're not an anarchist.
Just to be clear.
Not anymore.
Interesting.
An anarchist.
Okay, we need like 5 more hours.
That
was me too. I just went anarchist Mormon. We need like so much more time right now.
Oh yeah,
but I also feel like
there's historical.
We haven't talked enough about you and what you're doing. So I was going to ask what's upcoming in your world, so that we can do a little bit of a.
Okay, I'm doing another Kickstarter. Yeah, I'm gonna do another Kickstarter. It's gonna be more PrintABloks. They're gonna look like animals. Fantastic. Check. Done.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Look forward to that. We will put links in the description.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And people can find you on Twitter. We've already talked about that, and YouTube, which we've already talked about. Is there anywhere else you'd like to hang out?
Clearly, you are an excellent conversationalist, and you have very good and interesting things to say. So people should very much subscribe and watch your videos and follow you.
I'm a terrible
you're a rabble-rouser.
Self-promotional, because we didn't talk about anything that's terrible.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're a massive rabble-rouser. So people should definitely watch. They should definitely follow. They should definitely, especially since we didn't talk about you hardly at all.
Sorry.
We're the worst.
No.
We're gonna have to do this again.
We hardly let. It was basically me and Faye here, and you're just sitting there making faces in the corner the whole time. Like seriously,
I'm
we
just
time
absorbing. Like I try and listen. I'm trying. Yes, I've always struggled because I always try and jump in as soon as I have a thought, but I'm trying to listen more. It's a thing I'm trying to do.
And Faye and I both have very strong personalities, I think. I mean, both,
I blame the sassy pants.
I definitely have one. It's hiding here.
Yeah.
I definitely have very strong personality. Just surrounded by flowers.
It's a beautiful personality. You have a beautiful personality.
Not incongruent. You can be surrounded by pink and flowers and be a strong. So just I don't know where that came from, but it's getting late here, so I'm getting a little slap happy. Start busting out the songs.
So, do we need to wrap this up, or can I bring up a tweet that you responded to this morning? Because
go for it. What did I respond to?
So, Matt, no, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for this. You know what we'll have to do in the future.
No, come on. What did I say? What did I say?
I don't know if you saw my reply to the tweet that somebody had made a comment about you not being a supermodel, but being more just as beautiful as them.
Oh, the negging.
I think they said, they're not a supermodel, but I'm just as sexy as them. And I was like, are we doing a backhanded compliment thing?
What are you
Is
saying?
This a negging thing? And then it could just be someone being socially awkward. Totally.
Possible.
Walks and quacks like a duck. Potentially a duck.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Okay, it's possible that he was being. I can't speak for his intention, but I always like to consider the possibility that makes other people not be the jerk.
For sure, and I generally do.
Again, like that's just being socially awkward.
Of crappy
social
things
awkwardness.
It's not just social awkwardness.
I just had to have a sassy pants moment because it's been a week of crappy things that have happened.
But it's sassy pants week,
and I haven't really spoken about it publicly yet, and I'm still debating whether I will or won't. But I got some sassy pants on, and I'm just like, and it, calling it negging. I'm not saying the person's an asshole or anything. I'm just saying they're using a flawed tactic for picking up women.
It's backhanded compliments are not nice whether they're intentional or accidental.
And also, calling me sexy on YouTube, kind of irrelevant. Do it on Pornhub. Come on. Here I'm trying to teach you
place,
stuff.
And it's over here.
Right there.
It's just over here.
Yeah.
It's just
But go on. Say what you want to say. Do say it, because
we've been at this is also a bigger conversation that I want to have. And so if anybody has any thoughts or resources on it, but it's not just about they're socially awkward and that's a thing. But I also think that there's something it's like emotional blindness. Okay. Relate this to something that people can understand. If somebody is colorblind, okay, they look at the world differently than everybody else does. They can't tell that the light turned green. They just know that the top light is on, right? So they can't see the world the way everybody else does, and they've learned to work around it. But what happens if nobody had ever known about color blindness? What if they couldn't tell that they were colorblind and they just lived their entire life and just didn't quite understand what people were talking about when they were talking about the difference between these things?
This is I think something I can talk to. Yes.
Yeah, I think we might both understand this a little bit.
Yeah. So I used to have very little emotional understanding to the point where I thought I didn't have feelings. And it turns out I have a lot of feelings, which probably is quite evident to anyone who is good at reading feelings and has seen me before, because I have a lot of them. And I was very, very bad at recognizing feelings, very, very bad at understanding social situations and why people would behave in the way they would. I was bullied throughout school, and it was because I was a weirdo, Yeah. But I couldn't see that I was a weirdo, and I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong, and no one ever told me. No one ever told me, and that was really frustrating.
And no one will ever tell you because okay,
no
people
one
will
wants to have
recognize color blindness.
It's an exhausting conversation. Yeah, and even just being like, like it's a journey. And I didn't really start coming good until I saw a psychologist, and he taught me how to examine myself basically and work out what was going on there.
Okay, so there is a very interesting parallel here. In The Wizard of Oz, not the movie, the book.
Mm.
There is a character named Nick Chopper. We know him as the Tin Woodsman. So yeah, the whole backstory behind the Tin Woodsman was explained in the book. And in the book, he had his heart removed. He didn't have a heart. But the way that he reacted to that in the book was to be consciously aware of the fact that he needed to be kinder to other people. So he wouldn't even step on bugs because he knew that that was a mean thing to do. He didn't do it because he had a heart. He did it because it was a conscious decision on his part. So even emotionally blind people, and mind you, the emotional blindness spectrum, I think that we have a word for it, but it's got a bad stigma attached to it. It's called the autism spectrum. These people don't have the mirror nerve. And mind you, it's a spectrum. You might be just a little bit or you might be severe, but these people just don't see the same things emotionally that we do. They don't react to the world in the same way. And guess what? I'm on that spectrum maybe a little bit more than you might know because I've learned to work around it. Like Nick Chopper, I've learned what not to do in certain situations, but I will still stick my foot in it from time to time. And its chances are that that particular commenter just stuck his foot in it. And
entirely possible.
On the one hand, people need to have more tolerance for people like that and say, listen, they're probably just a weirdo. And on the other hand, the weirdos need to recognize, oh, people are acting like I did something bad. I don't know what I did. I don't know why it was bad. I need to apologize. It's like a colorblind person recognizing that the top light means go. You have to recognize that you need to do those things that you need to do, even if you don't understand why.
When I was on the beginning of my understanding, I totally agree with you, 100%. I do.
Yes.
Sorry, I want to say that.
And eventually they became...
I'm building upon, I'm not. But when I was beginning this journey of self-understanding, and when I was beginning this journey of self-understanding, I started to bring other people along that journey with me. You know, like I started to explain to them why people were reacting in this way and why.
Oh, I have broken relationships because I got excited about this understanding and I was like, oh, you're like this too. And people don't want to hear that.
I did okay. I think I have the advantage of being a cute girl. So people just kind of give me a bit more freedom.
Cute girl privilege, you know.
You know, it is a bit, like it is a bit. People will forgive me more for misstepping. I do think that. And anyway, I started to try and bring people along on this journey. And in the end, I just found it so taxing. It takes so much energy to take someone on that journey. And at the end of the day, it's actually not my journey. It's their journey. And it is something that they have to decide themselves to go on, which is why I spend less time trying to help people along than I used to. And now I kind of just laugh it off, which is what that Twitter thing was, which is me going lol. I mean, I just pointed out it was negging and me going lol. I didn't say that person's terrible. I didn't say, I just went, is this person trying to neg me? Lol.
It's
remember 2010? Like that was the whole thing. And it was just like...
Continuing.
Like if that person wants to work out what they were doing wrong, they can Google negging and they can work it out. But I'm not going to sit there and explain it to them anymore because it just...
But I feel like this is a topic...
Not my journey and it takes too much from me.
Not your circus, not your monkeys.
It's selfish. It's a selfish self-preservation thing.
No, not your circus, not your monkeys. It is a
topic though,
French phrase.
I have wanted to make a video about to raise awareness of, because I think that there are something about making and technology attracts people who don't have who have an emotional blindness, because this sort of thing makes sense. And I want to make a video about this topic to tell people on both sides, if you're in this camp, you need to learn the things you need to do to get along with people. And if you're not in this camp, please be tolerant for those people who you think are normal, and then they do or say something that you go, what the heck is wrong with them? What the heck is wrong with them is they're not normal. Just relax. It's okay. They're not broken. They're not bad. But boy, this is I've been writing that video for like 2 years.
Yeah, no, it is a tough one. And I actually am inclined to agree with you very strongly on the idea that nerds and makers are overwhelmingly neurodivergent. And I do like that term because what you're kind of talking about is say emotional blindness, obviously kind of referring tangentially to the autism spectrum, is a large section of neurodivergence, but there's neurodivergence that is different. Obviously, ADHD, while comorbid with autism, is not necessarily the same. And it does take up a slightly different section. And there are other things too. So neurodivergence is a whole sort of bubble that contains a lot of stuff in it. And what you're talking about is definitely a part of it. But there's other stuff too. And I definitely bet that more of us have some flavor of neurodivergence than not. And the thing is that because it isn't as simple as you have a thing or you don't have a thing, because there are different flavors and different styles and types, and there's overlap. And it is honestly a lot more complicated than you are emotionally blind or you're not. It does make it a lot harder to kind of figure out, how do we accommodate better for this? How do we deal with this better? But I would definitely say that it is still an incredibly important conversation and one worth having if you ever get around to finishing that script.
Well, if you got any idea for it, and if anybody else who actually and anybody who makes it to this part in the video, you are a
what a champion! Go you! Sitting through this. If you do that video, I'd be really happy to talk about my journey from being really socially and emotionally inept. I would call myself inept, to where I am now, which I think is a lot better than I was. I'd be very happy to talk on,
I'd love to hear that.
Share experiences.
Socially adept, even.
Adept, maybe. Competent? I don't know about adept, but competent.
I use emotional blindness to describe it because it goes nicely to color blindness. I also have
it's a metaphorical comparison.
I think it's something you can learn though, whereas color blindness, I mean, you can get glasses, but I do definitely think emotional blindness is something you can learn to get around. You talked about consciously being kind, and I'm consciously kind. I definitely, it's a choice for me, and I don't always get there, and probably that Twitter post, not kind. And you know, but I get the choice thing. And I don't know, if I was to go back to my old Reddit, there's a lot of angry, argumentative, not caring about people's feelings at all as I debate with them.
Tired or stressed or frustrated, that
is a big factor. Big second factor.
Yeah. But the other thing about me is I'm bitter blind, and this is like I can't taste bitter. It's weird.
Oh,
you're just full of sweetness. That's adorable.
Or I'm real salty.
Wow, things must look really different. They must taste really different to you.
Oh yeah, no, I'm learning all the time things that like nobody told me that chocolate was bitter until I was an adult. I just thought that bittersweet chocolate was just really bland.
Oh.
Huh. Wow.
Fascinating. Yeah. So and that's the thing. I went through a majority of my life not understanding why I didn't taste things the way other people did. And because nobody knew that this was a thing, and because nobody could tell me about this stuff, I was at a loss for a long time. And a lot of these people who are still emotionally blind in some way, they figure it out later in life. And people go, what's wrong with you that you don't know this already? You're 30 years old. You should understand this. Nobody told me before.
Yep. I remember finding out, because I don't see in pictures in my brain, and I remember finding out that people weren't being metaphorical when they say picture this, and people actually get pictures in their brain, and I was like,
what's wrong with you? No, I'm kidding. But
what? Like, it blew my mind. I'm like, you get pictures? That's crazy. So yeah, I can sympathize at least in some part with that. Yeah.
And conversely, I didn't realize that there were people who didn't, because I'm one of the picture people. I'm in fact one of the vivid picture people. So yeah, I didn't. So yeah, the fact that people don't read books and watch them as movies in their head was like, what? I thought everyone did that.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That's sad actually. Now that you mentioned that, man, what? No wonder people don't like Watership Down, because boy, if you can picture it, it's amazing.
I couldn't get through Lord of the Rings. I couldn't do it.
Oh.
It made me. I threw that book across the room. I could not get through it. Twin Towers, I think, is when I gave up. Yeah.
But I'll
It
bet the
described a
movie
valley.
was
Further
amazing.
than me.
Movies
Movies are
amazing.
great. Movies
They're
amazing.
great. They're great.
Which actually
Many
feels like a
reasons.
really nice positive note to end.
Yeah, poor Faye has to go to sleep.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, I'm
well,
starting to fade. I'm starting
Oh,
to fade.
yeah,
I'm
no, I
very,
could-
I'm very
Follow-
old. I can't
It's
stay up
pumpkin time
late.
for you. Good night.
Yeah,
follow
it's
Faye.
Joe.
Pumpkin
the
time,
printing-
yes. You know pumpkin time. I love
Yeah,
pumpkin
it's like
time.
Cinderella turns into a pumpkin. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yes, this was the thing that I was taught as a child was that, yeah, pumpkin time is bedtime. So, or rather is when you become tired to continue to stay up because
Right.
you're going to turn into a pumpkin. So yes, no, it is my pumpkin time. But thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
I would apologize for the seeming unorthodox direction of our conversation, but you
But
were
it's entirely
absolutely
my
in it.
fault.
You were in it. So like I don't think I have anything to apologize for. This was spectacular. This was exactly what I needed. And hopefully some other people watching or listening to this will walk away from this feeling the same.
Yeah, and
I have
that said,
no regrets. No regrets.
if people did not know who I was and watched this video and really enjoyed the person who I was, I can offer you none of this on my channel. So don't even bother subscribing. It's not. There's
Subscribe
no
to
point.
find out who he
Now.
really is. Yes,
For now,
I,
the new channel is coming.
Yeah, that's right. It's the aggressive moderate channel.
I love it. I love it. You will
it is
leave
wonderful.
YouTube with that.
Well,
but
I'm
thank
very
you.
glad that we got to have you here. So I'm.
It's a
I
pleasure.
needed
Thank you, guys.
That's
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Really appreciate it. And yes, we will see you on the internet.
And good
Until
night,
next
Faye.
time.
Good morning, Billy.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
too. Bye.
I am loving making this series, and if you are too, please support me on Patreon so I can keep making more. Top supporters will appear in this list of legends. You can meet another maker here, and here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like. If you want to catch up with any of us, all our socials are in the description below. See you later.
Okay.
Professionals.
So professional.